He'd rather divorce me than lend me $250,000 for my dying mother. 2 months later at my mom's funeral, he showed up acting like a grieving son-in-law. I stayed calm and made 2 announcements on the spot that left him and his family completely stunned. Kevin, my mother is in the ICU. It's over $10,000 a day. Are you really just going to let her die? I slapped the doctor's report onto the glass coffee table. The edge of the paper made a sharp grating sound. The only light in the living room was a single floor lamp casting a yellow glow that hid one half of his face in shadow. The other half was a blank mask. Emily, I've told you. It's not that I don't want to help. It's that we can't afford to. He was tapping his foot, his phone screen still bright with the stock chart I'd just seen him looking at. $250,000 isn't a small amount. Your mom's cancer is terminal. Throwing money at it now is like pouring it down the drain. Down the drain, my voice sounded alien to my own ears. That's my mother. When you were trying to win me over, you said you'd treat her like your own. That was then, he said finally, looking up from his phone. His eyes were as cold as a stranger's. Be realistic, Emily. We have about $400,000 in our savings and investments. We give half of that to your mom to fill a bottomless pit, and what's left? What about Sophie's college fund? What about a down payment on a bigger house? Are we supposed to live on air? A chill ran through me. I dug my nails into my palms. We could sell the car. Your Audi. Don't even think about it. He shot to his feet, his height making him tower over me. He looked like he was scolding a clueless child. Emily, I'm telling you right now. If that money goes to your mother, we're getting a divorce. The air froze. I stared at the face I had shared a bed with for 7 years, and it was suddenly unrecognizable. The small scar by his eye from when he fell drunk while I was pregnant with Sophie. I'd had to drive him to the ER myself in the middle of the night, my belly huge. The calluses on my hand from the early days of his startup when I'd stayed up with him packing boxes until my skin was raw. Now that same mouth was spitting out the word divorce. Over $250,000, I could hear my own voice trembling. Over my mother's life, yes, he said, his voice hard as stone. If you give her that money, this family is finished. You choose. Your mother or this family. I stumbled back, my spine hitting the cold wall. Hanging on it was our wedding photo. Me in a white dress, grinning so wide you could see all my teeth. He had his arm around my waist, his eyes so full of love they looked like they could melt. In the bottom right corner, a small inscription, May 20th, 2019. Forever and always. Forever and always. What a fucking joke. Kevin, I said slowly, straightening up. My voice was steady now. My mother raised me for 30 years. She put me through school. The first year I worked, she took every penny of her savings and gave it to us for the down payment on this condo. Now she's lying in a hospital, and the doctor said there's still a chance if she has this surgery. You believe doctors? He scoffed. They just want to make more money. It's terminal cancer. Any surgery is just a waste of time and money, and she'll die anyway. Emily, you're 33 years old. Can't you stop being so naive? I looked at him and suddenly started to laugh. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Okay, I said, wiping my cheeks. My voice was eerily calm. A divorce, you said. Fine. The condo, the car, the savings, we split it according to the law. But my mom can't wait. You lend me the $250,000 now. I'll sign the divorce papers immediately. He was taken aback, clearly not expecting me to agree so readily. Are you crazy? He looked me up and down as if I'd lost my mind. Once we're divorced, how are you going to pay me back? On your $5,000 a month salary, I'll pay you back. I stared him straight in the eye. I'll write you a promissory note. With interest. I'll sell my blood, I'll sell a kidney, but I will pay you back. Silence stretched across the living room. The clock on the wall ticked each second, a knife carving away at my mother's life. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to look. It was the hospital, another reminder about the mounting bills. No. He finally spoke, turning his face away from me. If we're divorced, I'll never see that money again. Emily, don't blame me for being harsh. This is reality. Your mom is over 60. Even if the treatment works, how many more years does she have? You have to look forward. I didn't wait for him to finish. I turned and walked into the bedroom. 5 minutes later, I emerged with a rolling suitcase. A small carry-on with a few changes of clothes, my important documents, and a photo of Sophie from when she was 3. Everything else, the wedding photos, the jewelry he'd given me, the furniture we'd picked out together, I left it all behind. You're really leaving? He blocked the doorway, his face a thundercloud. Move. Emily, I'm warning you. If you walk out that door today, don't think it'll be so easy to come back. I looked up at him, feeling an immense bone-deep weariness. Kevin, I said softly. Do you know what my mom's last words were before she lost consciousness last week? She said, don't tell Emily. Life isn't easy for her. His Adam's apple bobbed. He didn't speak. But she's my mother, I said and pushed past him. The metal wheels of the suitcase rumbled over the threshold. You won't lend me the money. I don't blame you. But the divorce is happening. The motion sensor light in the hallway flickered on, casting a sterile white glow. I walked to the elevator without a backward glance. Just as the doors were closing, I heard the sound of something shattering inside the apartment. It sounded like our marriage breaking into a million pieces. As the elevator descended, the numbers dropping one by one, I pulled out my phone. First, a text to my mom's doctor. Dr. Evans, I will have the funds for the surgery soon. Please continue her medication. Then a text to my best friend. Jessica, find me a lawyer. I'm getting a divorce. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened and a gust of night air rushed in. The early spring wind was still cold. I dragged my suitcase through the empty courtyard, glancing up one last time at our window. The light was still on, that Scandinavian-style pendant lamp I'd spent 3 weekends searching for. Its warm glow spilled from the 16th floor, but it would never reach me again. My phone buzzed. It was Dr. Evans. Miss Hayes, we need a deposit of at least $100,000 by noon the day after tomorrow. Otherwise, we'll have to stop the specialized ICU treatments. I stood in the wind, took a deep breath, and scrolled through my contacts to a number I hadn't called in 3 years. My finger hovered over the dial button, trembling for a full 10 seconds before I finally pressed it. It rang 3 times. Yeah, a deep male voice answered, rough with sleep. Ethan, I heard myself sob, my voice cracking. It's me, Emily. Mom's sick. She needs money for surgery. There was a 2-second pause on the other end. Then my brother Ethan, his voice suddenly sharp and clear. How much? Send me your account number. I'll wire it now. I collapsed onto a bench by the flower beds and finally broke down, crying my heart out. The night was long, and my mother's life and my marriage were both hanging by a thread. I could hear rustling on the other end of the line as Ethan got out of bed. How much exactly? Talk to me. His voice was fully awake now, with the no-nonsense tone he used to use when I was a kid and got into trouble. $250,000, I whispered, clutching the phone so tightly my knuckles were white. The surgery and follow-up care. The doctor said we need at least that much. I only have $10,000 saved on my own. Kevin, what? Ethan cut me off. The sharp clack of a keyboard echoed in the dead of night. Text me your bank info. Now. Ethan, I'll write a promissory note. I'll pay you back. Emily. Ethan's voice grew heavy, the same tone that always meant he was about to lecture me. That's my mother too. Since when do you have to pay me back? Send the account number. Stop wasting time. My nose stung and fresh tears welled up. With shaking hands, I texted him my banking details. At the top of the message screen, the little bubble that said Ethan is typing appeared for less than 10 seconds. Then, a notification from my bank app. A wire transfer of $250,000 has been received from Ethan Hayes. In the memo line, there were only 2 words, for Mom. Did you get it? He asked. I got it, I sobbed. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you. Thank me for what he swore under his breath, but his tone softened. When did she get sick? Why didn't you tell me sooner? They found it 2 months ago. She hid it from me. She just collapsed last week. I wiped my face, forcing myself to calm down. I'm in Austin. I'll get the first flight out tomorrow, Ethan said. I could hear the sound of a suitcase being zipped in the background. I'm on my way to the hospital now. Are you going home or should I meet you there? I dragged my suitcase and stood up, my legs numb. Kevin won't give me the money. The line was silent for a few seconds. Then a cold laugh from my brother. Right. I get it. You go on ahead. I'll be there in the morning. If you need more money, tell me. We'll deal with the other stuff when I get there. After we hung up, I stared at the new balance in my banking app. My hands were still shaking, not because of the amount, but because of the name on the transfer, Ethan Hayes. It had been 3 years. 3 years since I'd insisted on marrying Kevin, getting into a huge fight with my brother. He'd said Kevin had shifty eyes. I'd told him to mind his own business. He'd stormed out shouting, "One day you'll be crying and you'll remember this." He was right. I hailed a taxi on the street. The driver helped me with my bag, gave me a concerned look. You okay, miss? I'm fine. I forced a smile. Lakeside General Hospital, please. The city streets were empty in the early morning. Streetlights flew past one after another. My phone screen lit up. 3 missed calls and 5 texts from Kevin. Emily, have you had enough of this drama? Come home. I'll pretend today never happened. I really can't come up with $250,000. How about $75,000? Is that okay? God damn it, answer me. The last one was from 10 minutes ago. Fine. You're tough. See if I care if you ever come back. I muted his chat and opened my conversation with my best friend Jessica. She'd sent a dozen messages, the last one reading, "Lawyer is set. Her name is Miss Albright. She's a shark. 9 a.m. At her office tomorrow. Don't panic. Your mom is the priority right now." I replied with a, "Thank you," then leaned my head against the cold window, watching the city lights blur past. 3 years ago, on a night just like this, I had a high fever. Kevin had driven me to the hospital, one hand on the wheel, the other gripping mine tightly. "Don't be scared, honey," he'd said. "I'm here." Now my hands were freezing, my suitcase was on the passenger seat beside me, and he was at home probably fuming that I was being so ungrateful. How absurd. The ICU was on the top floor of the inpatient building. I dragged my suitcase down the long, sterile hallway, the smell of antiseptic burning my nostrils. At 2 a.m., the hospital was silent, except for the light at the nurses' station. A nurse on duty glanced up at me, then back down. I found a corner in the family waiting area and sat down. Through the glass doors, I could see the blinking lights of a dozen machines. My mom was in the far bed tubes covering her body. "Miss Hayes," the nurse came out holding a bill. "You're the daughter of Susan Hayes, in bed 3 right. If the payment isn't made today, we'll have to stop her medication at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'll pay it now." I stood up and took the stack of papers. A $100,000 deposit for the surgery. ICU fees of $12,000 a day, plus various medications and tests. We were already $30,000 in arrears. I settled the entire bill and put down another $70,000 as a deposit. As I swiped my card, the cashier gave me a surprised look. Paying it all, the machine spat out the receipt. I clutched it in my hand, the paper still warm. Back in the waiting area, I leaned against the cold wall, my suitcase at my feet. Inside, besides a few clothes, was the picture of Sophie. She was 5 now, staying with Kevin's mom in their suburban home in Naperville. I'd wanted to bring her to the city for preschool, but my mother-in-law said the city air was bad, that the suburbs were better for raising kids. Kevin had agreed. I only saw her on weekends. During our video calls, Sophie would always say, "Mommy, I miss you." But every time I tried to talk longer, my mother-in-law would cut in saying it was time for Sophie to sleep. My phone vibrated. It was Ethan. "Boarding now. Landing in 3 hours. How's Mom?" I took pictures of the doctor's report and the payment receipts and sent them to him. He replied quickly, "Hang in there. I'm coming." Just those few words made my frantic heart settle a little. At least I wasn't alone anymore. As dawn approached, I dozed off. I dreamed of my mom in the kitchen making chicken noodle soup, my favorite since I was a kid. She was telling me, "Emily, when you look for a husband, you look at his character. Money isn't important. What's important is that he's good to you." In the dream, I was a teenager again, hugging her arm and whining, "I know Mom, Kevin is so good to me." My mom in the dream looked up, her eyes filled with a worry I couldn't understand. "Sweetie, if he's ever not good to you, you come home. Mom will always be here for you." Then the dream shattered. A nurse was calling my name. "Family of bed 3, the patient is awake." I shot up the world, turning black for a second. I had to brace myself against the wall to stay upright before stumbling toward the glass doors. A nurse inside nodded at me, indicating I could go in. After putting on a sterile gown, mask, and cap, I practically ran to my mother's bedside. She was awake, her eyes half open. Her lips were chapped and peeling under the oxygen mask. When she saw me, her eyes moved and her fingers twitched. "Mom?" I took her hand. The hand that had cooked for me, combed my hair, and secretly wiped away tears at my wedding, was now just skin and bones. "Mom, I'm here." She blinked, her gaze landing on my face, then slowly moving to the suitcase I'd left by the door. She was asking me what happened. "It's nothing, Mom. I'm just staying here to be with you for a few days." I forced a smile, but tears were streaming down my face. "The doctor said the surgery has a high success rate. You'll be all better after." She shook her head slowly but firmly. Then she traced letters on my palm with her finger, one stroke at a time. I figured it out. "No. Treatment. Go. Home." "No," I gripped her hand tighter. "I have the money. Ethan is on his way. You have to get the surgery." She kept shaking her head, a tear sliding from the corner of her eye into her white hair. A nurse came over and told me my time was up. I had to leave. As I changed out of the scrubs, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red and swollen, my hair a mess. My jaw was clenched so tight it ached. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Kevin's mother. I stared at the screen at the words mother-in-law and took a deep breath before answering. "Emily," the old woman's voice was drawn out in her usual nagging tone. "I heard from Kevin your mom's sick, in the ICU." "Yes," I said flatly. "Oh my, that must cost a fortune," she clucked her tongue. "Now, I'm not trying to be mean, but your mom is getting on in years. Terminal cancer, treating it or not, it's all the same. Why waste the money? It would be better to save it for Sophie's education." I closed my eyes, then opened them. "She's my mother." "So, what if she's your mother? Your primary family is Kevin and Sophie now. You can't drain your own family's savings to fund a lost cause. Charity begins at home, Emily. You have to think of your own family first." Her tone grew sharp. "Kevin told me you want a divorce over this. Are you stupid? Where are you going to find another man like Kevin? A woman in her 30s with a kid. Who would want you?" I said nothing. She took my silence as submission. Listen to me. Go home, apologize to Kevin. As for your mother, you've done your part. Don't empty our savings for her. Oh, and Sophie starts preschool next month. Remember to send the tuition. It's $1,200. I finally spoke, my voice chillingly calm. I'll send the tuition. But my mother's surgery is also happening. She sputtered. And another thing, I said, looking at my reflection. I am getting a divorce. As soon as this is over, I'm coming to get Sophie. You dare, she shrieked. Sophie is a Johnson. Don't even think about it, Emily. I'm telling you, if you dare to divorce my son, you will never see your daughter again. The line went dead. I slowly lowered the phone. The woman in the mirror pulled her lips into something that was half smile, half grimace. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway. I looked up to see a tall figure dragging a suitcase rushing toward me. He was travel-worn, his eyes bloodshot. My brother Ethan was here. He pulled me into a hug, squeezing so tight my bones ached. His voice was a hoarse wreck. You idiot! Why didn't you tell me sooner? I buried my face in his shoulder and finally let myself wail. The sun was rising. And my life from that moment on was split in two. Ethan let go of me, his hands on my shoulders as he looked me up and down. You've lost weight, he said, his voice still hoarse. His face was covered in stubble, his eyes a web of red lines. Did that bastard hurt you? I shook my head, then nodded, tears refusing to stop. Right. I get it. He wiped his face and pulled a pack of cigarettes from his pocket. He glanced at the no smoking sign on the wall and shoved them back in. How's Mom? She woke up for a bit, now she's sleeping again. I quickly filled him in. When I mentioned the surgery costs, he waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry about the money, I've got more. Ethan knelt and unzipped the front pocket of his suitcase, pulling out a manila envelope. But you need to see this first. I took it. Inside were copies of bank statements. The account holder was Kevin Johnson. I had a friend look into it, Ethan said, standing up, his eyes like ice. Guess what? Your dear husband bought a brand new Tesla Model X last month. Paid over $100,000 for it. Cash. My mind went blank. And this. He pulled out a few more sheets of paper. His company landed a huge contract last month. The profit was at least $500,000. It's not that he couldn't come up with the $250,000. He just didn't want to. The papers rustled in my hands. I couldn't make out the numbers. All I could see was Kevin's flamboyant signature, each letter a slap across my face. Why? I heard myself ask, my voice a wisp of air. Why? Ethan let out a cold laugh and showed me a photo on his phone. See for yourself. In the photo, Kevin was at a cafe with a young woman. She was smiling coquettishly, her hand on his arm. The photo was taken 2 weeks ago, right after my mom was diagnosed. Her name is Chloe. She's a new intern at his company. 23 years old, Ethan said, his eyes fixed on me. Get it now. It's not that he doesn't have the money. He just doesn't want to give it or himself to you anymore. I leaned against the wall, the world spinning. No wonder he was always working late these past 2 months. No wonder he changed the password on his phone. No wonder he avoided my gaze whenever I brought up my mother's medical bills. It wasn't guilt. It was deceit. Bastard, Ethan hissed through his teeth. We have to divorce him. But we can't let him off this easy. I looked up. He's the one who wanted the divorce. Fine. Ethan collected the documents, his gaze sharp. But with marital infidelity and hiding assets, we're going to make sure he pays. At 9 a.m. It's not 9 a.m. Ethan and I were sitting in Miss Albright's office. She was a woman in her 40s with gold-rimmed glasses. After listening to my story and reviewing the evidence Ethan brought, she pushed her glasses up her nose. Miss Hayes, I understand the situation. Your husband's actions constitute marital misconduct. Her speech was calm and methodical. First, his refusal to contribute to your mother's medical expenses is a violation of the spousal duty of support. Second, while the photos are not definitive proof of an affair, combined with his recent large unexplained expenditures, we can petition the court to investigate his finances. Third, hiding income and purchasing a vehicle without your knowledge is a clear case of concealing marital assets. Can we get him for everything he's got? Ethan asked. Unlikely, Miss Albright said honestly, but we can fight for a larger share of the assets. Under state law, the division of property in a divorce must be equitable, taking into account the welfare of any children and the conduct of the parties. As the non-offending party, you could argue for a 60% to 70% split. Since Kevin spent $100,000 of marital funds on his mistress, that is a clear-cut case of dissipation of marital assets under Illinois law. We will petition the court for a disproportionate share of the estate. You will keep the entire equity of the condo to offset the money he wasted on the affair. That portion can be considered your separate property and reimbursed to you. The car, although registered in his name, was purchased with marital funds and is therefore a marital asset subject to division. She scribbled notes quickly. And what about custody of your daughter? I want full custody, I said, without hesitation. Then we need to act fast, she said, her expression serious. The child is currently with his family in the suburbs. If he refuses to return her, it can get complicated. I recommend you retrieve your daughter before filing the divorce petition. Ethan nodded. I'll go with her. Be careful about how you do it, Miss Albright warned. Avoid any confrontation that could lead to police involvement. A record of domestic disturbance could be used against you in a custody battle. Additionally, your mother's situation can be submitted as evidence of his failure to provide support, provided you can prove he was aware of her dire condition and your need for funds yet refused to help. I have the text messages, I said, pulling up my phone. Kevin's message, how about $75,000, was right there. Perfect. Miss Albright smiled for the first time. This is a very strong chain of evidence. Miss Hayes, I will draft the petition immediately. But before we file, there's one thing you need to do. What's that? Do not engage in any further direct conflict with him, especially regarding money, she looked at me. Don't ask him for another cent. Don't let him know you've secured the funds for the surgery. Maintain contact, but only discuss the divorce and your daughter. If he brings up money, tell him to speak to your lawyer. I understood. The strategy was to make him think I was desperate, that I had no choice but to crawl back to him. Leaving the law office, it was already noon. Ethan and I grabbed a quick lunch near the hospital. He slid a credit card across the table to me. There's another $100,000 on here for Mom's follow-up treatments, he said. Don't argue. She's the only mom I've got. I looked at the card, a lump forming in my throat. Ethan, about what happened back then? Stop, he cut me off, looking down at his food. The past is the past. You're my sister. She's my mom. That's all that matters. After lunch, we went to see my mother. She was awake and seemed a little stronger. When she saw Ethan, her eyes instantly turned red. Mom, it's okay. Ethan knelt by her bed, holding the hand that didn't have an IV in it. Emily and I are here. You just focus on getting better. My mom shook her head and gestured for me to come closer. I leaned in and heard her whisper, her voice thin as a thread. Get the divorce. I froze. He's no good. Each word was an effort, but her meaning was clear. I was wrong about him. So, she knew. She'd known all along that Kevin wasn't good to me, but she never said anything, afraid of making things harder for me. Mom, I squeezed her hand, tears dripping onto the blanket. Just get better. You need to get better so you can watch me and Sophie live a happy life. She smiled, a faint nod. That afternoon, my mom was wheeled into the operating room. Ethan and I waited outside. 5 hours felt like 5 years. When the light above the door went out, my legs gave out from under me. The surgeon came out, pulling off his mask. The surgery was a success. Her recovery will depend on her own strength, but we've passed the most critical stage. I slumped into a chair, too exhausted to even cry. Ethan patted my shoulder, then went to thank the surgeon. That night, my mom was moved to a regular room. She was still unconscious, but her color was much better. Ethan insisted I go get some sleep while he stayed with her. I was at my limit. Back at the cheap apartment I'd rented, I fell onto the bed and was instantly asleep. I was jolted awake in the middle of the night by my phone ringing. It was Kevin. I stared at his name for a dozen seconds before answering. Emily, his voice was tired, less aggressive than before. How's your mom? The surgery is over, I said calmly. I got the money. He was silent for a moment. Emily, I was harsh the other day. It's not that I didn't want to help, I've been having some trouble. The company's cash flow is tight. That car. I got it as part of a settlement on a bad debt. I didn't buy it. It's all a misunderstanding. I held the phone, saying nothing. Come home, his voice softened. Sophie misses you. My mom said families shouldn't hold grudges. How much more do you need for your mom's medical bills? We can figure it out together. Figure it out together, I laughed. Kevin, when are you going to sign the divorce papers? The line went quiet. Then his voice turned cold. Emily, I'm trying to be reasonable here. Don't push it. If we really get a divorce, who's going to want you, a single mom with a sick mother to support? That's my business. My voice was steady. My lawyer will be in touch with you next week to discuss the terms. And I'm coming to get Sophie. You wish, he roared. Sophie is a Johnson. What right do you have? The right of being her mother? I cut him off. Kevin, you have two options. We can have an amicable divorce, I get custody, and we split the assets according to the law. Or we can go to court, and I will present the evidence of your affair and your attempts to hide marital assets piece by piece. Are you threatening me? He sputtered. No, I said slowly. I'm informing you. I hung up and blocked his number, then all his other contact methods. Outside, the city lights burned all night. I sat in the darkness, remembering 7 years ago when he'd knelt and proposed, promising to love me for a lifetime. A lifetime. It was so short. So short that a single illness and $250,000 was enough to reveal its true ugly face. My phone lit up. A text from Ethan. Mom's awake. She's asking for the broth you make. I wiped my face. I'll bring it in the morning, I replied. Then I got up and went to the kitchen. There were dried beans soaking in a bowl of water. I stared at them, remembering my mother teaching me how to cook soup years ago. Emily, she'd said, you have to control the heat. Not too fast, not too slow. Too fast and it's undercooked, too slow, and it burns. Life is like making soup. You have to simmer it slowly to get the flavor. I didn't understand then. I understood now. But the cost of that understanding was far too high. The next morning, I brought the freshly made soup to the hospital. My mom was awake and doing better than the day before, able to sip a few spoonfuls. Ethan was slumped in a chair by her bed, fast asleep, dark circles under his eyes. I put a blanket over him, and he woke up instantly. I'll just rest here, he said, his voice raspy. You go back and get some real sleep. I pushed him out the door. I've got this. He didn't argue, just stumbled out, saying he'd be back in the afternoon to relieve me. After my mom drifted off again, I sat by her bed, holding her hand. My phone vibrated. It was my mother-in-law. I took a deep breath and walked to the end of the hall to answer. Emily. Her voice was surprisingly warm today. Have you eaten? Yes. What is it? Oh, nothing much. It's just Sophie misses you. She's been crying to video chat with you. She paused. Is now a good time? My heart clenched. Yes, it's fine. Great, I'll put her on. The video connected and Sophie's small face appeared on the screen, her eyes red, as if she'd just been crying. Behind her, my mother-in-law's face was pressed close to Sophie's head, a wide, wrinkled smile on her face. Mommy? The moment Sophie saw me, her lip quivered. Sweetheart, don't cry, Mommy's here. My nose stung. Are you being a good girl at Grandma's? Yes, Sophie sniffled. Mommy, when are you coming to get me? I want to go home. Soon, baby. As soon as Mommy finishes taking care of Grandma Susan, I'll come get you, okay? No, Sophie suddenly shouted, startling me. Grandma said Mommy doesn't want me anymore. She said I'm getting a new mommy. The blood in my veins turned to ice. On the screen, my mother-in-law's expression changed. She quickly pulled Sophie away. What are you talking about, such a silly girl? I'm not lying, Sophie started to wail. I heard Grandma on the phone with Daddy yesterday. She said, when the new mommy has a baby brother, they won't want me anymore. I want my mommy. I want to go home. Be quiet. My mother-in-law clamped her hand over Sophie's mouth. The screen shook violently, then went dark. I stood there, trembling from head to toe. A new mommy. A baby brother. Kevin, you son of a bitch. The video call came through again. This time it was just my mother-in-law, her expression unnatural. She's just a kid making things up. Don't take it to heart, she said with a forced smile. It's like this. That intern at Kevin's company, they're just colleagues. Sophie must have gotten confused. Ma'am, I cut her off, my voice terrifyingly calm. I am taking Sophie back. Absolutely not, her face hardened instantly. Sophie is a Johnson. Why should you get to take her? Besides, with your mother sick and all, what if you bring her home, and she catches something? That's her grandmother. So what? It's cancer. Who knows if it's contagious? Her voice grew shrill. Emily, I'm telling you, don't even think about getting Sophie. Kevin has already agreed. After the divorce, Sophie stays with us. He'll marry someone younger, someone without all this baggage dragging him down. Someone who actually respects him. If you know what's good for you, you'll come home, apologize, and we can all go back to normal. Then Sophie will still be your daughter. Otherwise what? I laughed coldly. Otherwise you'll never see her again. She hung up. I slid down the wall, the antiseptic smell of the hallway, making my eyes burn. But I couldn't cry. Rage cold as ice water washed over me, making my teeth chatter. My phone buzzed again. It was Kevin. I stared at his name for 3 seconds, then answered. Emily, don't listen to Sophie. She's just a kid. He began, his words tumbling out. She doesn't know what she's talking about. There's no new mommy. Oh. My voice was so calm, it surprised me. So the baby brother she mentioned was also just her imagination, Emily. Kevin, I interrupted him. We were married for 7 years. I'm giving you one last shred of dignity. Next Monday, my lawyer and I will come to the condo to discuss the settlement. I get the kid. I want half the value of the condo. The car is a marital asset. I want half its cash value. We split the savings. As for the assets you've hidden, my lawyer will have a chat with you about those. Silence. Then he laughed, a cold, sharp sound. Emily, who gave you this confidence? Your brother. How much money could that loser possibly have? How much more do you need for your mom's medical bills? 30,000. 50. If you beg me, maybe I don't need it. I said. My mother's surgery is over. It was a success. My brother paid for it. What? He was stunned. Kevin, I said, slowly getting to my feet and looking out at the gray, overcast sky. I'm not negotiating with you. I'm informing you. We either settle this amicably, or I'll see you in court. I have evidence of your affair text messages proving your refusal to provide medical support and bank statements showing you hiding marital assets. How do you think a judge will rule when they see all that you had me investigated? He roared. Why shouldn't I? I laughed too. You had the nerve to bring your girlfriend around my daughter. You had the nerve to discuss having another son with your mother. What's wrong with me looking at some bank statements? Next Monday. 9 a.m. I'll be at the condo. I hung up and added him to my block list. The last message that came through before it went dark was, Emily, you'll regret this. Yes, I'm ruthless, I thought. You made me this way. When I got back to the room, my mom was awake looking at me. Mom, I forced a smile. Do you want some water? She shook her head and beckoned me over. She took my hand and wrote on my palm slowly, deliberately. Get Sophie back. I nodded fiercely. I will, Mom. You just get better. When you're out of the hospital, we'll live together with Sophie and Ethan. She smiled, the wrinkles around her eyes softening like a blooming flower. That afternoon, Ethan came bringing a thermos. A family in the next room had given him half of their chicken soup. He poured a bowl for me. Drink this. You look like a ghost. I took the bowl but didn't drink. I told him what happened that morning. When he heard it, he slammed his fist against the wall. A dull thud. That bastard. His eyes were red. Sophie is 5 years old and they're telling her things like that new mommy baby brother, I'll kill him. Ethan, I grabbed his arm. Don't be impulsive. Miss Albright said we can't use force now. It will hurt our case for custody. Ethan's chest heaved. It took him a long moment to calm down. Fine. We'll do it the lawyer's way. I'm going with you on Monday. I want to see just how shameless that family can be. No, you stay here with Mom, I said. I'll go alone. I can handle it. I looked him in the eye. Ethan. I've put up with it for 7 years. I'm done. This is something I have to face myself. Ethan stared at me for a long time, then let out a heavy sigh and ruffled my hair. Fine. You've grown up. Call me if anything happens. I can be there in 20 minutes. For the next 2 days, I spent my days at the hospital with my mom and my nights at the rental apartment. Kevin called from a different number. I didn't answer. His mother called a few more times each time, saying how much Sophie missed me, her tone growing softer and softer until it was almost pleading. I knew what they were afraid of. They were afraid I'd really sue, afraid of the evidence, afraid of losing everything. On Sunday evening, Miss Albright sent over the draft of the divorce agreement. The terms were clear. I would get sole custody of our daughter with Kevin paying monthly child support. The condo, which my mother had contributed the down payment for and I had paid the mortgage on, would be mine and I would pay him his share of the equity. The car, a marital asset, would be his, but he would have to pay me half its market value. The savings would be split evenly, but his hidden income and concealed assets would be divided separately. Finally, due to his significant marital misconduct, infidelity, and failure to provide support during a family medical crisis, he was to pay me $50,000 in damages for emotional distress. I called Miss Albright. The child support, can we make it a one-time lump sum payment? We can ask, but he's unlikely to agree, she said. And if he tries to fight for custody, it becomes a bargaining chip. He won't want Sophie, I said with certainty. He wants to remarry and have a son. Sophie is a burden to him. There was a pause on the other end. Are you sure? Positive. All right. I'll amend the terms. By the way, would you like me to accompany you tomorrow? No, thank you. I'll try to negotiate with him first. If that fails, I'll ask for your help. Okay, be safe. Call me anytime. After hanging up, I opened the photo gallery on my phone and found a picture of Sophie on her 3rd birthday. She had 2 little pigtails and a smile that crinkled her eyes. She was holding a bunny cake I'd made for her face smeared with frosting. Kevin was beside her, his arms around both of us. His mother had taken the picture, cooing about what a perfect family we were. Just 2 years later, and it had become a new mommy, a baby brother, and your mommy doesn't want you. I turned off my phone and lay in bed. Rain began to fall outside, a soft, persistent drizzle like someone weeping. I lay there with my eyes open until dawn. Monday morning, I put on my most expensive blouse, one Kevin had bought for me 3 years ago, saying I looked good in white. The woman in the mirror was gaunt. The shirt hung loosely on her frame, but her eyes were bright like they held a burning fire. At 9 a.m. sharp, I stood outside our front door. I put the key in the lock. It wouldn't turn. He'd changed the locks. I smiled and knocked hard 3 times. The door opened. Kevin stood there in sweatpants, his hair a mess and dark circles under his eyes as if he hadn't slept. His mother peeked out from behind him, her face instantly souring when she saw me. "You're here," Kevin said, his voice hoarse, stepping aside to let me in. I walked into the living room. It was the same room, but the throw pillows on the couch were different, and there was a pink thermos on the coffee table that wasn't mine. "Sit," Kevin gestured to the couch. I remained standing. "Did you read the agreement?" I did. He scrubbed a hand over his face and sat on the couch opposite me. His mother sat down right next to him, poised for battle. "Then sign it." I took the papers from my bag and placed them on the table. Kevin didn't move, but his mother snatched them. After flipping through a few pages, her face turned purple with rage. "Emily, have you no shame?" she shrieked, pointing a finger at my nose. "You want the condo, you want money for the car, and $50,000 for emotional distress. Are you insane, ma'am?" I looked at her calmly. "My mother paid half the down payment on the condo, and I've been paying the mortgage. The car was bought with marital funds. As for the damages, shouldn't your son pay for cheating on his wife?" "You're lying," she jumped up. "Who cheated? What proof do you have? I'm telling you, this is slander. We can sue you for this. I have proof." I pulled the photos from my bag and tossed them on the table. The picture of Kevin and the young woman landed with a soft slap on the glass. Both of their faces went pale. That's a colleague," his mother stammered. "What's wrong with having a meal together? Why is your mind so dirty?" "Really?" I pulled out more papers, the bank statements. "And was the $100,000 car part of a debt settlement? Was the $500,000 profit from that contract just to cover a cash flow problem?" "Ma'am, your son hasn't been telling you the truth." Her eyes widened as she turned to Kevin. He was looking at the floor, refusing to meet her gaze. "Kevin." Her voice changed. Is this true?" Kevin didn't answer. "Talk to me," she shoved him. "So what if it's true?" Kevin suddenly looked up, his eyes bloodshot, glaring at me. "Emily, I'm telling you, you're not getting a dime more than the law requires. And you're not getting Sophie. You want the kid. Fine. Drop the lawsuit. We have a simple divorce. The condo is mine, the car is mine, the savings are mine, and Sophie is mine. You walk away with nothing. Do that and maybe I'll let you see her." I looked at him as if watching a clown perform. "Kevin," I said, "do you really think I can't survive without you, can you?" He sneered. "You make $5,000 a month and you've got a sick mother to support. How are you going to raise a child? With me, at least, Sophie will have everything she needs. With you, she'll have nothing." His mother, catching on, immediately chimed in. "Exactly, Sophie is a Johnson, she has to stay with us. If you want to see your daughter, you'll do as Kevin says." I watched their duet and suddenly felt tired of it all. 7 years. I had wasted 7 years on this family. It was enough. "Fine," I said. Kevin's eyes lit up. "You agree?" "I agree," I said slowly. "To see you in court." I turned to leave. "Emily," Kevin yelled behind me. "If you dare sue me, you will never see Sophie again." I stopped and turned back to look at him. "Kevin, listen carefully," I said, enunciating every word. "I want to see Sophie by Wednesday of next week. If I don't, I will call the police and report you for parental kidnapping. Furthermore, the evidence of your affair and hidden assets will be sent out in triplicate. 1 copy to the court, 1 to your business partners, and the evidence will be entered into public court records where all your future clients can look it up. I'll also make sure your investors and partners see exactly how you misappropriate funds to buy cars for your interns. If you don't mind the humiliation, feel free to test me." He was trembling with rage. You. I looked at his mother. "You wanted a grandson, right? Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. But Sophie is mine." I pulled open the door and walked out. It slammed shut behind me, cutting off his mother's shrill curses and the sound of Kevin breaking something else. In the elevator, the mirrored walls reflected my face, expressionless, my eyes cold as ice. My phone vibrated. It was Ethan. "How did it go?" "It blew up," I typed back. "Ethan, do me a favor. Name it. Find out the license plate number of Kevin's Tesla and where he usually parks it." "What are you planning?" "He won't let me see my daughter," I typed, watching the floor numbers descend. "So I'm going to make sure he can't see his precious car either." Ethan was silent for a few seconds on the other end. "Emily, don't do anything stupid. Don't worry. I won't hurt anyone and I won't break the law." I stepped out of the elevator, seeing my own blurry reflection in the metal doors. I just want him to know that when I'm pushed too far, nobody gets to walk away happy. I could hear the click of a lighter. Ethan had lit a cigarette. "All right. I'll get it for you. But you go to the hospital first. Mom was able to take a few steps today. She wants to see you." My heart eased. "I'm on my way." At the hospital, my mom was indeed slowly shuffling by her bed, supported by Ethan. Her face lit up when she saw me and she reached out a hand. "Mom, slow down." I rushed over to support her other side. She gripped my hand tightly. It was still thin but warmer than before. "How did it go?" she asked, her voice a soft whisper. "It's fine, Mom. I can handle it." I didn't want her to worry. "You just focus on getting better. You'll be out of here in a few days." She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of worry and pride. She just patted my hand and didn't ask any more questions. After settling my mom, Ethan pulled me into the hallway and handed me a slip of paper. Got it. The car is parked in his company's underground garage. B level. The intern's name is Chloe. She lives in company-provided housing. Kevin hasn't been to the office the last couple of days. He's been hiding at home. I took the paper with the license plate and parking spot number. Thanks, Ethan. What are you going to do? He watched me concerned. Don't get into a fight. He's not worth it. I'm not going to fight, I said, putting the paper away. I'm just going to reason with him. Reason with him? Why do you need his license plate for that? For the kind of reasoning he'll understand. Ethan studied my face for a long moment, then sighed. I'll go with you. No. You stay with Mom. If I go alone, he won't dare try anything. What if he gets physical? Then I call 911, I said lightly. A domestic violence report would look great in a custody hearing. Ethan stared, then a wry, bitter smile touched his lips. Damn, Emily. You really have grown up. Yes, I had. I'd grown up because someone held a knife to my throat and forced me to. The next morning, I printed 3 copies of the legal complaint Miss Albright had sent me. I also went to the bank and printed my last 6 months of statements circling Kevin's large suspicious withdrawals in red ink. Then I went to his company. It was a small import-export firm he'd started with 2 friends 3 years ago. I'd been there a few times. The receptionist recognized me, her expression instantly awkward. Is Kevin in, Mr. Johnson? He's not in today, she stammered, avoiding my eyes. That's fine. I'll wait. I sat on the couch in the lobby and pulled out my phone, displaying my wedding photo and then a picture of Sophie as a baby. Can I get you some water? The receptionist asked. Thank you. She scurried away, stealing glances at me. I knew what she was thinking. It was a small company. The rumors about Kevin and Chloe had probably been circulating for weeks. The wronged wife showing up at the office, it was high drama. Sure enough, less than 10 minutes later, a young woman in a pink dress walked out from the main office area. She stopped short when she saw me, a flash of panic on her face. It was Chloe. She was even younger in person with pale skin and big innocent eyes. A picture of helplessness. Are you looking for Mr. Johnson? She asked, her voice a delicate whisper. I smiled. You must be Chloe. Kevin's mentioned you. Her face went white, the coffee cup in her hand trembling. I'm just an intern. An intern. I see. I nodded, my tone gentle. You're young, you have your whole life ahead of you. But let me give you a piece of advice, sister to sister. Don't go digging for love in a dumpster. Especially not with a man who won't even pay for his dying mother-in-law's medical bills, but will turn around and buy his mistress a $100,000 car. A man like that will promise you the world today and kick you to the curb for the next pretty young thing tomorrow. You believe me, the few employees pretending to work in the lobby had all perked up their ears. Chloe's face was beet red, tears welling in her eyes. You're lying, Kevin. He loves me. He loves that you're young, that you're pretty, or that you're naive. I was still smiling. Do you know why he won't divorce me? It's not because he loves me. It's because a divorce means splitting assets. The condo, the car, the savings. He'd have to give me half, and that kills him. So he's dragging it out, hoping I'll just give up and walk away with nothing. And guess who he'll start stringing along next once I'm gone? Chloe's mouth opened, but no words came out. Tears started to fall. Oh, and by the way, I said, as if I just remembered something. I pulled one of the bank statements from my bag, pointing to the circled $100,000 transfer. This Tesla he bought you. Is it registered in your name? She shook her head instinctively. See, I said, putting the paper away. That's his version of love. Honey, take it from someone who's been there. Cut your losses. You're young. Find a decent man. Don't waste your time on this one. He's not worth it. After I finished, I looked back down at my phone. Chloe stood there frozen, not knowing whether to cry or run. Finally, she slammed her coffee on a table and ran off her hands, covering her face. The lobby was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I waited another half hour. Kevin didn't show, but one of his business partners did. A Mr. Peterson, whom I'd met a few times. He looked stressed to see me. Emily, what are you doing here, Mr. Peterson? I stood and handed him a copy of the legal complaint. I came to deliver this to Kevin. Since he's not here, could you please give it to him? He took it, his face paling as he scanned the first page. Also, I said, looking him in the eye, as a shareholder in this company, there's something you should know. Kevin has been using the company account for some personal transactions lately. Large ones. I don't know if you're aware, but if it involves embezzlement of company funds, it could damage the entire business. You might want to have your accountant take a look. Mr. Peterson's face grew even grimmer. Emily, you can't just make accusations like that. I'm not. I smiled. I have the statements right here. This copy is for you. You can see for yourself if it's true or not. Anyway, I won't take up any more of your time. I turned to leave, then paused at the door. Oh, one more thing. If you see Kevin, please tell him I'll be waiting for him in the parking garage tomorrow at 3 p.m. If he doesn't show up, I'll be sending copies of all this to his mother, all his clients, and I'll post one on the front door of this building. The choice is his. The next day at 2:50 p.m., I was standing in the B level of the parking garage. The air was thick with the smell of gasoline and dust. Kevin's new Tesla was parked in its designated spot, a silent metallic beast. At 2:55, footsteps echoed from the elevator. It was Kevin alone. His face was a mask of fury, his eyes bloodshot. "Emily, what the hell do you think you're doing?" He stormed up to me, spittle flying from his mouth. "Coming to my office harassing Chloe? Have you no decency? I looked at him, amused. "Did you have any decency when you were cheating on me, Kevin? Did your mother have any decency when she was telling my daughter she was getting a new mommy? Did you have any decency when you were hiding assets to buy your way? Girlfriend, a car, you?" What? I took a step closer, looking up at him. "I'm here for one thing. Give me Sophie. Sign the papers. Otherwise we go to court. But before we do, I will make sure you are socially and professionally ruined. You'll lose your job and every friend and relative you have will know exactly what kind of man you are. And when that happens, do you think your little girlfriend will still be around?" Kevin's chest was heaving, his fists clenched. "Are you threatening me?" "Yes, I am." I took out my phone and played a recording. It was his mother's voice, crystal clear. "When the new mommy has a baby brother, they won't want you anymore." Kevin's face went white. "Where did you get that?" "You don't need to know." I stopped the recording. "Kevin, I'm giving you one last chance. Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Bring Sophie to this address." I handed him a slip of paper with my rental's address. "I'll have the papers. Sign them and we can go our separate ways. If you don't, this recording along with the photos of your affair and the proof of your hidden assets will be sent to every single person you know, to your clients' inboxes, and to the bulletin board in your parents' hometown community center." "I mean it." He stared at me, his eyes burning with a hatred that could bore holes through me. "Emily." He squeezed the words out through his teeth. 7 years of marriage. "Do you really have to be this cruel?" "Cruel," I laughed, and the laugh turned into tears. "Kevin, when my mother was lying in the ICU waiting for money to save her life, you were making out with your girlfriend in this very car. Was that not cruel? When your mother was telling my 5-year-old daughter that I didn't want her, was that not cruel? When you were hiding our money to prepare for this divorce, was that not cruel?" I had my reasons," he stammered. "Reasons?" I wiped my face. "Fine. Let's hear them. Did your mother force you to cheat? Did Sophie force you to hide our assets?" He couldn't speak. "Can't think of anything. Okay. Then let me tell you my reasons. My mother was sick, and I needed to save her. Sophie is my daughter, and I need her. It's that simple. Either you sign the papers or you wait for your life to be ruined. Your choice." The motion-activated lights in the garage went out, plunging us into darkness. Only the green glow of the emergency exit sign cast an eerie light on Kevin's face. After a long moment that felt like an eternity, he spoke. "Where are the papers?" His voice was a raw scrape. I took the documents and a pen out of my bag. He snatched them, using his phone's flashlight to read through them. When he got to the parts about me getting custody, the condo, and the $50,000 in damages, his hands were shaking. "The condo I can give you," he said, looking up, his eyes blazing. "But you are not getting Sophie. She's my daughter. She stays with me." "With you?" I looked at him. "With you? So your mother can teach her that her own mom abandoned her, that she's being replaced by a new mommy and a baby brother. Kevin, she's 5 years old. How can you be so heartless? My mom was just angry." "Angry?" I played another recording. It was from after I'd left the condo, the sound of him smashing things and screaming, his mother's frantic cries in the background. "Let her go, let her and her dying mother rot. Sophie is a Johnson. She'll die a Johnson before I let her take her." When the recording finished, the garage was silent again. Kevin seemed to deflate, all the fight going out of him. He leaned against the car and slid to the ground. "Emily," he covered his face, his voice muffled. "When did you become like this? You made me like this." I held out the pen. "Are you signing or not?" He looked up, his eyes a mess of red veins and despair. "I'll sign." He took the pen and signed his name on the last page, pressing his thumbprint next to it. Each stroke seemed to take all his strength. There. He threw the pen down. It bounced off the tire with a soft thud. "Now, can you delete the recordings? When Sophie is safely with me, they'll be deleted." I put the signed agreement back in my bag. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't be late." I turned to walk to the elevator. "Emily," he called after me. I stopped but didn't turn around. Did you ever wonder, his voice was so quiet I could barely hear it, why I wouldn't give you the money for your mother? I stood still. He laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed in the garage. "Your mother never liked me. She said I wasn't good enough for you. That my family was poor, that my mother was uneducated. Yeah, I was poor. My mom doesn't have a college degree. So what, I have money now. And where is she? Lying in a hospital waiting to die, dependent on my charity. Emily, isn't that karma? I stood there, my back to him, my body ice cold. The elevator doors opened, then closed. I hadn't moved. Then I turned around and walked back to him. He was still on the ground, a twisted look of triumph on his face as he looked up at me. I bent down, picked up the pen from the ground, and plunged it deep into the tire of his Tesla. Psst. The sound of a tire deflating was shockingly loud in the silent garage. Kevin stared speechless. This one, I said, looking him in the eye, is for me. For being stupid enough to marry a man who can't tell who's on his side. Then I walked to the other side of the car and stabbed the other front tire. And this one is for my mother. Because she was wrong about you. You weren't not good enough for me. You're not even human. Psst. The tire went completely flat. I tossed the pen aside and dusted off my hands. The cost of the tires can be deducted from the damages you owe me. 10 a.m. tomorrow. I want to see my daughter. For every minute you're late, I'm sending out one of the recordings. You figure it out. With that, I walked into the elevator and pressed the button. The doors slowly closed. My last glimpse of him was sitting on the concrete floor between his two flat tires, an expression on his face like he'd just been forced to eat shit. As the elevator went up, I looked at my reflection in the mirrored walls and started to laugh. And then the laughter turned to tears. But this time, I didn't wipe them away. Let them fall. After this, I would never cry over this man again. The next day, at 9:50 a.m., Ethan and I were waiting outside my rental apartment building. He lit a cigarette, then immediately stubbed it out. You think that bastard will try something? He won't dare, I said, but my palms were sweating. At 10 a.m., on the dot, a taxi pulled up. Kevin got out first, his face grim, then his mother. And finally, Sophie. She was wearing the pink down jacket I'd bought her last year, but she looked thinner, her eyes puffy. When she saw me, her lip quivered, but she glanced nervously at her grandmother and held back her tears. Sophie, I ran to her, kneeling to pull her into a hug. Sweetheart, Mommy's here. Mommy. Her small body trembled in my arms, her voice a choked whisper. You really came for me, Grandma said. You weren't coming back. Of course I came. I hugged her tighter, my own tears falling. Mommy's here now. Let's go home. What home? Kevin's mother stepped forward, blocking my path and pointing at Ethan. Who's this? You brought another man with you, Emily. You really move fast. The divorce isn't even finalized and you've already found a replacement. Ethan's face darkened, but I stopped him before he could speak. Ma'am, I said to her, my voice even. This is Ethan, my brother. You probably don't recognize him because in the 7 years I was married to your son, you never once made an effort to meet my family. She was speechless, her face flushing. Sophie, come here, Kevin said, his voice raw. Sophie trembled in my arms, clinging to me tighter. Kevin, you signed the agreement. The child is mine now. I stood up holding Sophie and looked him in the eye. Take her, he squeezed the words out and threw a plastic bag at my feet. Here are her things. And her stuffed rabbit. I picked it up. Inside were a few faded, worn-out clothes, and the stuffed rabbit she'd slept with since she was a baby, its ear torn. That's it. I looked at the ill-fitting clothes I'd never bought. Where are the rest of her things, her toys, her books, the new jacket I bought her? They're at the house. If you want them, go get them yourself, Kevin said, looking away. Fine. I nodded and turned to leave with Sophie. Stop, his mother lunged, grabbing Sophie's arm. Sophie is a Johnson. You can't just take her. I don't agree. Kevin, say something. The sudden movement hurt Sophie and she burst into tears. Let go. I pried her fingers off my daughter, shielding Sophie behind me. The agreement is signed. I have legal custody. If you don't agree, we can go to the police station right now and let them sort it out. I'm pretty sure what you're doing right now counts as attempted kidnapping. You're trying to scare me, she blustered, but her grip loosened. I'm not scaring you. I handed Sophie to Ethan and pulled out my phone, opening the dial pad to 911. Or I can just call them now and we can explain the situation to the officers. Kevin grabbed his mother's arm. Mom, stop it. Stop it. This is my granddaughter being stolen from me. She threw off his hand and sat down on the pavement, slapping her thighs and wailing. My granddaughter. They're taking her away. This is a travesty, Emily. You ungrateful monster. What did our family ever do to you to deserve this? Her loud cries attracted the attention of people passing by who started to stare and whisper. Ethan frowned, but I shook my head. Ma'am, I said, looking down at the spectacle on the ground, finding it utterly ridiculous. You can cry and scream all you want, but let me remind you the evidence of your son's affair and hidden assets is in my possession. If you don't want to see him in jail, I suggest you quiet down. Otherwise, I'd be more than happy to help him get there. The wailing stopped abruptly. She sat on the ground, staring up at me as if I were a stranger. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? I knelt leaning in close so only she could hear. When you were teaching my daughter that she was getting a new mommy, did you think I wouldn't dare? When you were teaching her to reject her own mother, did you think I wouldn't dare? Well, let me tell you now, I dare, and I always follow through. Her mouth hung open, speechless. I stood up and brushed the dust from my pants. I took Sophie back from Ethan. Kevin, I said, to the pale-faced man standing by. Tomorrow morning 9 a.m., the county courthouse. Bring your ID and the necessary papers. Don't be late. Then, holding Sophie, I walked into the building. Behind me, I could hear his mother's renewed hysterical sobs and Kevin's suppressed roar of frustration. But I didn't look back. Not even for a second. The rental was small, just a one-bedroom, but it was clean. I'd bought new bedding for Sophie, new toys, and a pile of snacks. She sat huddled in the corner of the couch, clutching her old rabbit, her big eyes taking in the new surroundings with fear. Sweetheart, this is our new home. I knelt in front of her, my voice soft. From now on, Mommy, Sophie, Uncle Ethan, and Grandma Susan will all live here together, okay? Grandma Susan, Sophie whispered. Grandma said, Grandma Susan is sick, and I could catch it if I get close. A pang of pain shot through my heart. I forced a smile. Grandma Susan's illness isn't contagious. Your other grandma was lying. Grandma Susan misses you so much. When she gets better, she'll come visit and make you her special soup, okay? Sophie's eyes lit up. Okay. Ethan came in with a big bag full of new clothes, shoes, and picture books for Sophie. Sophie, look what Uncle Ethan got you. He knelt, trying to make his voice gentle, though on his normally stern face it looked more like a grimace. Sophie was a little scared and hid behind me. Sophie, this is your Uncle Ethan. He's Mommy's brother, I said softly, taking her hand. He loves you very much, and bought you lots of things. Ethan awkwardly pulled a fluffy teddy bear from the bag and held it out. Here, for you. Sophie looked at me. I nodded. She carefully took the bear and hugged it. Thank you, Uncle, she whispered. A rare smile appeared on Ethan's face. That night, after I gave Sophie a bath and tucked her into bed in her new pajamas, she clung to my neck, terrified I would leave. Mommy, she whispered. Grandma said, you and Daddy are divorced, and I don't have a daddy anymore. Is that true? My heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. Sophie, I stroked her hair, keeping my voice steady. Mommy and Daddy are separated, but Daddy is still your daddy, and Mommy is still your mommy. We both still love you very much. We just don't live together anymore. But why doesn't Daddy live with us? Because... I paused. Because sometimes, like you and your friends at school, grown-ups can play together for a while, but then they have to play separately. But no matter what, Mommy will always love you and always be with you. Okay, she nodded, not fully understanding, and snuggled into my arms. Mommy, can I sleep with you tonight? Of course you can. What about tomorrow? Tomorrow too. And the day after that, the day after that, and the day after that. Every single night, if you want to, you can sleep with Mommy. She finally smiled her arms around my neck and quickly fell asleep. I watched her peaceful face, her long eyelashes, her tiny nose, her mouth slightly open. My daughter. I finally had her back. The next morning, I left Sophie with a kind retired neighbor who had offered to watch her, and Ethan and I went to the courthouse. Kevin was already there, alone, dressed in a suit, his hair neatly combed. But the exhaustion in his eyes was unmistakable. His face hardened when he saw me and then Ethan behind me. Let's go, I said. The divorce was processed quickly. All the agreements on asset division and child custody had been signed. A clerk reviewed the paperwork, a stamp came down with a thud, and our marriage certificate was replaced with divorce decrees. Walking out of the courthouse, Kevin called my name. Emily. I stopped but didn't turn back. How is... Sophie? She's fine, I said. Can I see her? You can. I turned to face him. According to the agreement, you have visitation rights, but you have to schedule it in advance. And your mother is not to be present. His mouth opened, then closed. Okay, he finally said and walked away. His back seemed stooped as if he'd aged 10 years overnight. Ethan clapped me on the shoulder. Come on. Mom gets discharged today. Let's go get her. At the hospital, my mom was already packed and waiting. When she saw the divorce decree in my hand, her eyes welled up. She reached out and touched my face. It's for the best. It's for the best. Mom, let's go home. Grandma Sophie peeked out from behind Ethan and called out shyly. My mom froze, then tears streamed down her face. She held out a trembling hand. Sophie, come let Grandma see you. Sophie ran and threw herself into her arms. The two of them, one old and frail, one small and young, clung to each other, a mess of happy tears. Ethan turned away, wiping his eyes. I stood at the door, my own nose stinging, but a great weight had finally been lifted from my heart. Our new home was small, It was a bit crowded with the four of us, but it was warm. My mom took the bedroom, Sophie and I slept on the pull-out couch in the living room, and Ethan made a bed for himself on the enclosed balcony. That night I cooked a simple dinner. My mom didn't have much of an appetite, but she tried her best. Sophie ate a whole bowl of rice and 2 pieces of chicken. "Wow, Emily, your cooking has gotten so much better than Mom's," Ethan joked. My mom laughed. "You just know how to flatter." Sophie giggled along a grain of rice stuck to her cheek. After dinner, while I washed the dishes, Ethan watched cartoons with Sophie, and my mom sat on the balcony looking out at the city lights. "Emily," she called. "Yes, Mom, this apartment must be expensive," she said, her voice full of worry. "And you have to raise Sophie and my medical bills." "Mom, don't worry about it." I dried my hands and went to her. "I found a new job. I start next Monday. The pay is better than before. And Ethan said he can help out. You just focus on getting better. When you're strong again, you can help me with Sophie while I work. Things will get better." She stroked my hair just like when I was a child. "My poor girl. You've suffered." "I haven't," I said, holding her hand to my cheek. "From now on, it's all good days." Outside, the city was a sea of lights. It was a big, cold city, but inside this little apartment, it was warm. That night, after Sophie was asleep, Ethan found me on the balcony. He handed me a can of beer. "You deserve this." I took it. The cold liquid was slightly bitter. "So, what's the plan?" he asked. "Start the new job Monday. It's an international trade salary is about $6,000 a month plus commission," I said. "Then I'll find a new preschool for Sophie closer to here. Mom needs regular checkups. And..." I looked at the can in my hand. "I need to make sure Kevin pays what he owes. If he doesn't, I'll have the court enforce it." "If you need money, just ask me," Ethan said. "I know." I paused. "Ethan. About back then. I'm sorry." He laughed and ruffled my hair. "Are you silly? It's all in the past." He was right. It was all in the past. The tears, the heartache, the nights of despair. They were over. The road ahead might still be hard, but I had Sophie, my mom, and my brother. I had my family. That was enough. My phone buzzed. A text from Miss Albright. "Miss Hayes, Mr. Johnson has made the first payment. Please check your account. He has also agreed to a lump sum for child support but requests to pay in installments. I recommend you accept to prevent future issues. We can discuss the details tomorrow," I replied. "Okay. Thank you, Miss Albright." I opened my banking app. There was a new deposit. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough to see us through the winter. In the distance, fireworks bloomed against the night sky, brilliant and fleeting. But tomorrow the sun would rise again. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. My new company was in a gleaming skyscraper in the Loop. On Monday morning, I stood at the reception desk and took a deep breath. "Hi, I'm Emily Hayes. I'm here to start today." The receptionist gave me a standard corporate smile. "Miss Hayes, yes. Miss Lawson, the director is expecting you. This way, please." The office was a sea of cubicles, a symphony of clicking keyboards and ringing phones. A few people glanced up as I walked past their eyes, curious before quickly looking away. The director's office was at the end, a glass-walled room with the blinds half closed. "Come in," a voice called after the receptionist knocked. A woman in her 40s sat behind a large desk. She had short hair, gold-rimmed glasses, and a perfectly tailored suit. Her eyes were sharp as she scanned me. "You must be Emily." I sat in the chair opposite her, my back straight. "I've read your resume. You have experience, but you've been out of the workforce for 2 years. Family reasons, it says." She looked at me. "Can you elaborate?" "I got divorced. I have sole custody of my daughter, and my mother was seriously ill," I said, keeping it brief. She nodded, not prying further. "This is a fast-paced environment. The pressure is high and overtime is common. Can you handle that?" "Who takes care of your child?" "My mother is recovering and can help." She studied me for a few more seconds, then pulled a folder from her drawer. "This is your employment contract. 3-month probationary period at 80% pay. After that, your base salary will be $72,000 plus performance-based commission. Any questions?" "No." I signed my name at the bottom. Emily Hayes. The 2 words felt like a new beginning. "Welcome aboard," she said, standing to shake my hand. "I'm Abigail Lawson, your direct supervisor. I look forward to working with you." "You too," I replied, her handshake firm and dry. The work was harder than I'd expected. The industry had changed in 2 years. I spent my nights studying product manuals. During lunch, I'd stay at my desk, trying to catch up. On Wednesday, Abigail dropped a huge binder on my desk. "This is our biggest potential client for the second half of the year. Familiarize yourself with this. You're coming with me to a meeting with them on Friday." It was at least 200 pages. Okay. By the time I left the office, it was after 7 p.m. In the elevator, I ran into a few women from another department. They exchanged glances. That's the new one, Emily. I heard she's divorced with a kid. I wonder why Abigail hired someone like that. The elevator doors opened, and they hurried out. I stood there until the doors closed again. It's okay, Emily, I told myself. You've been through worse. A little office gossip is nothing. When I got home, Sophie ran to me, hugging my legs. Mommy, hey sweetie. Did you have a good day? Yes, Grandma taught me a new song. My mother was in the kitchen warming up dinner. You're home, go wash up, food's almost ready. The simple domesticity was a balm to my soul. Over dinner, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Emily. It was Kevin. His voice was raspy. I'm downstairs. Can you come down for a minute? What is it? I brought some of Sophie's things. And some of yours. Just leave them by the entrance. I'll get them later. I want to see her. It's too late, she's about to go to bed, I said flatly. Schedule it for another day. There was a pause. Fine. I hung up. When I got downstairs later, he was gone, but 2 large bags were there. One was full of Sophie's toys and books. The other had some of my old things. As I was about to go back up, he called again. Emily, he said, and I could hear the desperation in his voice. Chloe left. The company is having problems. Peterson found out about the money I used. He sighed. I'm sorry. I really am. Kevin, what's the point of telling me this? I don't know. That $250,000? I swear the business was in trouble. The car was part of a deal. Chloe. She was just a mistake. I've ended it. Kevin. I turned back towards the building. It doesn't matter anymore. The divorce is final. Our lives are separate. Whether you're sorry or not, whether you feel better or not, has nothing to do with me. You've changed, he whispered. Yes, I said. You made me change. I hung up and walked inside. On Friday, I went with Abigail to the client meeting. The person in charge was a Mr. Reynolds, a sharp man in his 40s. The meeting went well, and he invited us to lunch. At a quiet Japanese restaurant, we were finalizing details when Mr. Reynolds' phone rang. He stepped out to take the call. When he returned, his expression was odd. Abigail, Emily, he said, putting down his chopsticks. This is a bit awkward, but the person on the phone was a friend of mine. He happens to know your ex-husband, Emily. Kevin Johnson. My heart sank. He told me, Mr. Reynolds said, looking at me with a complicated expression, that your divorce was rather contentious. And that Kevin is telling people you fabricated the affair to get more money, that you ruined his reputation, and that you were fired from your previous job for being untrustworthy. That's a lie. I blurted out, then composed myself. Mr. Reynolds, those are baseless slanders. I have a court-issued divorce decree that proves he was the at-fault party, and I have a letter of recommendation from my previous employer. I resigned for family reasons. Mr. Reynolds didn't speak, just tapped his fingers on the table. Abigail stepped in smoothly. Mr. Reynolds, Emily is new to our team, but we vetted her thoroughly. Her professional record is impeccable. Her personal life is her own, and has no bearing on her ability to do her job. We hire for character and competence, and Emily has both. The rest of the lunch was tense. No deal was signed. In the car on the way back, Abigail was silent. Just before we reached the office, she said, Emily, can you handle your ex-husband? Yes, I said. It won't affect my work. It better not, she said, her voice cool. This deal is important. I don't want it jeopardized by personal drama. I want a full report on my desk by morning explaining everything. Include a copy of the court decree. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, feeling the whispers and stares of my colleagues. I knew my job was on the line. I wrote the report attaching all the documents. At the end, I added a personal note. I understand the company's concerns. Please give me one chance to prove myself. I will land the Reynolds account. If I fail, I will resign immediately. The next morning, I went to Abigail's office. This is my proposed strategy for the Reynolds account, I said, placing a newly drafted, detailed proposal on her desk. I would like your permission to meet with him one more time by myself. She looked at me then at the proposal. She read it in silence for 5 minutes. The proposal is good, she said finally. But he might not agree to see you. That's where I need your help, I said. Just get me in the door. I'll handle the rest. If I fail, I'm gone. She stared at me, then nodded. All right, I'll make the call, but you get one shot. The meeting was set for the next day. As I was walking to Mr. Reynolds' office, my phone rang. It was Kevin. Heard you almost lost your new job, he sneered. See, you can't make it without me. But I'm a nice guy. You drop all this, delete the evidence, and I'll even give you another $50,000. For your mom. I stepped into the elevator. Kevin, do you know how much my new salary is? With commission, I'll be making over $100,000 a year. My mom is covered by insurance and my brother helps. Sophie is thriving. As for you, my voice dropped, I have 10 backups of the evidence against you. If you ever contact me, my colleagues, or my clients again, I will make sure every person you've ever known sees them. A man with nothing to lose is a dangerous thing, Kevin. I have nothing left to lose. You, on the other hand, still have a reputation to protect. Don't test me. I hung up. In Mr. Reynolds' office, I laid it all out. The court decree. A signed notarized letter taking full personal and financial responsibility for any issues arising from my personal life. And my new aggressive data-driven proposal. He looked at all of it, then back at me. Finally, he smiled and extended his hand. Emily, you've got guts. Let's talk about the price. I walked out of his building an hour later with a signed letter of intent. The deal was done. I took a photo of myself shaking Mr. Reynolds' hand and sent it to Kevin. Thanks for the motivation. The deal is closed, and I've been promoted. My lawyer will be in touch about the late child support payments. Then I blocked him for good. 2 months later, my mother passed away. It was peaceful in her sleep. A sudden heart failure, the doctor said. She didn't suffer. I didn't cry. I made the arrangements calmly. Ethan held me his own body, shaking with silent sobs. The funeral was small and quiet, just as she'd wanted. As we were leaving the crematorium, it started to rain. A black Audi, the same model as his old one, pulled up. Kevin got out holding a bouquet of white lilies. He was gaunt, unshaven, a ghost of the man I once knew. Emily, he said, his voice a wreck. I came to pay my respects. Ethan stepped between us. Get lost. We don't want you here. Please, he looked at me, his eyes pleading. Emily, I'm sorry. For everything. I was a bastard. I should have helped. It's too late for that, Kevin, I said, my voice empty of emotion. If you're here to apologize, I accept. If you're here to ease your own conscience, don't bother. My mother didn't hate you. And neither do I. You should go. He just stood there in the rain, the flowers drooping. He looked at Sophie, hiding behind my legs. Sophie, he whispered. Say hi to your dad, I told her softly. Hi, Daddy, she mumbled. Tears streamed down Kevin's face. She's gotten so tall. He took a shuddering breath. My company went bankrupt. The bank took the house. My mom had a stroke. She's paralyzed. His life had fallen apart. I looked at him, this man who had promised to take care of me forever, now a broken shell. Kevin, I said, do you know the last thing my mother said about you? She said, tell Kevin I don't blame him. It just wasn't meant to be. She said life is full of wrong turns. But when you make one, you have to own it. You have to move forward. No blame, no hate. Just move forward. He collapsed into sobs, a pathetic, wretched sound. I didn't comfort him. Some lessons have to be learned the hard way. You can see Sophie, I said when he'd quieted down. You're her father. I won't stop you. But on one condition. You, or your mother, or anyone in your family will never again mention a new mommy or a baby brother to her. If I hear one word of that, you will never see her again. I mean it, he nodded frantically. I swear. Never again. Good. I turned and walked to the car with Ethan and Sophie. Emily, he called one last time. Thank you. And I'm sorry. I didn't answer. As our car pulled away, I saw him in the rearview mirror, a lone figure standing in the rain, the white lily petals scattered at his feet. A month later, my life had found its new normal. I was promoted to department manager. Ethan moved to Chicago permanently, saying he needed to look after his sister and niece. I enrolled Sophie in an art class she loved. I saved enough for a down payment on a small 2-bedroom house. One evening I came home from work late. Sophie ran to me, her face beaming. Mommy, I won first prize in the school art show. That's my girl. I swung her around. In the kitchen, Ethan was cooking, humming happily off-key. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was a perfect, ordinary moment. My phone buzzed. A text from Kevin. Emily, I have this weekend off. Could I see Sophie? I can take her to the new children's museum. I'll have her back by 6 p.m. I typed back. Okay. Be safe. Was that Daddy? Sophie asked, her head on my shoulder. Yes, it was. He wants to take you out this weekend. Do you want to go? Yes, she cheered. Then her voice grew small. Will you be there, Mommy? No, sweetheart. Mommy will be right here making your favorite dinner for when you get back. Okay, she gave me a loud, wet kiss on the cheek. You're the best, Mommy, I smiled, hugging her tight. Yes, this was the best. A job I was proud of, a family I adored, a future that was mine to build. I had been through the fire and come out the other side. On the ruins of my old life, something new and beautiful was growing, and that was more than enough.